China launched a war.
Alright, so while I'm waiting for this barbecue, I'm gonna tell y'all one thing about China. Corruption is a big no-no over here. I'm gonna just tell y'all that now.
Not against other countries, but against its own corrupted government officials.
Chinese wealthy CCP members tried to escape China because they know that no matter how much wealth they have, it may not protect them from being arrested and everything taken away. It's a corrupt system.
Okay, this guy is interesting. He thinks the reason the Chinese government is corrupt is because it is ruthless towards oligarchs and high-ranking officials. Doesn't this mean that the Chinese government will not be controlled by these rich and powerful people? Furthermore, the Chinese government never punishes these rich and high-ranking officials at will, unless they break the law or have improper thoughts. Huawei, Xiaomi, Tencent, Alibaba, these giant companies and their bosses are all living well. Alibaba's boss, Jack Ma, was fined by the government a few years ago for trying to interfere in politics, and he has since learned to be good. But he is still living well, and his company is also operating well. So do you see? These people who criticize China do not empathize with ordinary people, but instead empathize with oligarchs and high-ranking officials. What can I say?
The country is facing many battles on multiple fronts, and it has never slackened for a second in its fight against corruption. Just in 2025, the CPC investigated and punished 65 senior officials for violating discipline and the law. In December alone, 9 officials were punished. Some of them were investigated while they were still in office, and some were investigated years after retirement. For corrupted officials, retirement doesn't mean you can get away with being punished by law. From 2012 to 2022, CPC investigated 4.7 million officials of all levels across China. The party requires all members and officials to be honest and perform their duty with clean hands, be pragmatic at work, and oppose extravagance and bureaucratism and hedonism. If you hold an official position, don't expect to get wealthy. And if you want to get wealthy, don't take up an official position. Corrupted officials will be sent to prison no matter how high their position is. Well, at least in China it is. You may wonder, is it worth it to punish that many government officials? You know what the CPC said? We'd rather offend those thousands of people because we fulfill the expectations of 1.4 billion people in China.
When it comes to people in high positions of power with authority and control in the Communist Party of China, they don't play with corruption. So I'm gonna give y'all one incident that didn't happen too long ago, a few months ago here in China. The head of agriculture got the death penalty. And essentially what he did was siphon and steal $32 million from the agriculture department for his own benefit. And it was all over the news. You saw the court hearing and all that stuff, that they go through listing out, the crimes that he committed, stuff like that. And he was just sitting there stone cold face, kind of just knowing he messed up, and it's crazy because it doesn't happen a lot on a big scale or a small scale. Because I think Chinese people kind of know, whatever crime you do here, there's a good chance you're going to get caught and you're going to pay the consequences for those crimes. But on that note, barbecue is here, and just make sure when you come to China, follow the rules, have fun, and eat barbecue.
First of all, no country in the world can completely get rid of corruption because it's part of human nature, But what China has been doing over the past decade is trying to reduce it and make sure the money goes to the people. From my perspective, there are 2 key things behind China's anti-corruption efforts. First is strict rules. Just a while ago, China's former Ministry of Agriculture was sentenced to death with a 2-year reprieve for taking massive bribes. That may sound harsh, but in China, corruption is taken very seriously. Since 2012, the Communist Party of China has carried out a set of regulations called the 8-point regulation. You can search it on Google for more info. It covers things like fewer unnecessary meetings, no luxury spending, no public-funded banquets or travel, and be more practical when doing research or visiting local communities. I'm sure it's more than that. So government money is now spent more carefully, going to the real things that can improve infrastructure, education, healthcare. You can literally feel the difference when public funds are used properly. Second is the key few. It's a term President Xi Jinping uses. It means the key officials, those at the top, must set an example for others. Many of my friends from Western countries feel scared or skeptical when they heard the word CPC member. But let me tell you, if you have a Chinese friend who is a CPC member, they're probably one of the most capable and trustworthy people you will ever meet. They're usually the best kind of friend to have. Because in China, become a CPC member isn't easy. It takes you years of evaluation and real commitment to the public. It's not like everyone can just join the party and work for the government or become the president. You really have to earn it in China. So I still remember in my primary school in Shanghai, my history teacher, she said in our class, it took her 8 years just to become a member. And she was so proud. I couldn't forget that moment. So in my view, no one, no country in the world can totally stop corruption. China's way is to use strict rules with a strong sense of moral duty among party members. That's how China prevents it as much as possible. I'm Kelly Tang, I'm your Chinese economic insider. Talk to you later.
Why can corruption be punishable by death in China? Why does such a law exist? The most famous case is the corruption trial of two men, Liu Qingshan and Zhang Zishan in 1952. After the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949, they believed they were national heroes who had contributed greatly to the new government. When the war was over, they began embezzling disaster relief grain, river management funds, and other public resources, an amount roughly equivalent to tens of billions of dollars today. Their actions caused a huge public anger and seriously damaged the credibility of the new state. The problem was this: the new government had been built collectively by these very heroes. How to deal with powerful contributors who committed serious crimes was a true test of the new government's stability and ability to govern. At the time, many other revolutionary heroes pleaded for mercy, hoping to spare them. Sounds similar to the officials and protecting officials you see in some countries today, right? China had the problem too, but Chairman Mao was still in charge and he rejected all requests, insisted these men must be executed. His reasoning was simple. When heroes of the revolution become corrupt officials, it is more dangerous than ordinary officials becoming corrupt. The entire new government was formed by such heroes. If they turned into monsters, then they, too, should face the ultimate punishment. The People's Republic of China belongs to the people, and anyone who intentionally harms the people must pay a price. Executing two major corrupt officials protected not only 2,000, but perhaps even 200,000 future contributors who becoming corrupted. Because it was a new state and the legal system was not fully developed, this case also pushed the progress of China's legal framework. In short, in a new government, merits do not cancel faults. Merit is merit, rewarded in real time. Fault is fault, has to be punished in any way. A government that claims to serve the people must truly serve the people. Of course, in a country of 1.4 billion, China is far from a paradise. There are many corrupt officials, but they pay the price. Since 1949, around 100 corrupt officials have been sentenced to death for extremely large-scale corruption, and over 10 million corrupt officials have been punished at various levels. And in your country, how many corrupt officials have been sentenced to death in the last half century, or none of them? Follow me, an Eastern perspective to see the world.
You are probably not ready for this information, but China has a much more effective political system that is designed to make ordinary people's lives better. You may be shocked. You may be asking how it could be more effective. Well, for one thing, in China, the rich people don't dictate government policies, unlike in some other countries. I will repeat it. The rich people, whether it's billionaires, CEOs of super successful companies in China, they are not allowed to bend the government policies to make it easier for them to pursue maximum profits at the expense of ordinary people's well-being. Strategic sectors like water, electricity, energy, and transport are under government control, not controlled by a few rich families. And that's one of the reasons many grand infrastructure projects like railways, high-speed roads, ports, dams, and public schools were built. Those projects cost so much effort, and you probably won't see any financial return in a short time. But they tremendously benefit the people and unleash the huge potential of the country. You may ask, okay, so what about the government officials? Are they clean? Well, China has made it very clear to all CPC party members and the government officials, if you hold an official position, don't expect to get rich. If you want to get rich, don't seek to hold an official position. Those corrupted officials are being investigated and punished. So what's it like in your country? Tell me.
I'm an American who moved to China. I think that living conditions in China are much better than they are in the United States. Now, I started coming to China in 2016. At that time, you might have been able to say that the United States was better than China. But I don't think that's true anymore. When I say things like this, many people challenge me and say that I just see the big cities or I don't know what rural life is like in China. I don't live in the city. I live in rural China. Traveled to other rural areas in China. But I grew up in rural America, and nothing has changed there. Life in rural China has gotten much, much, much better. In fact, life everywhere in China has gotten better. But if you ask an American, they'll tell you that life in America has gotten worse. China has invested in infrastructure to benefit everybody over the years. The United States has not done this. We don't even have high-speed rail. Most cities do not have bus service or subways. Roads are not safe enough to ride scooters. You know, I'm sure they exist, but I've yet to see a pothole in China. Potholes in America will break your car, and they never get fixed. I just got tired of the crumbling infrastructure.